house needs painting, the grass needs mowing. Where's he at?
Hi, this is Hank. Sorry I missed your call. Leave me your name and your number and I'll get back to you.
He's gone fishing.
Hello and welcome to Off the Water with Hank Parker. Sarah Beth is not here, so I know she'll be proud that I got that right. But I have two special guests with me today that we're going to pick up where we left off. I got Billy Catfish Parker, and I've got Hank Parker Jr.
Howdy.
And this is kind of part two of our podcast. So if you saw last week's show, then we're picking up where we left off. An hour went by way too quickly, and we didn't get into any of the stories. I wanted to talk about life on the road. I wanted to talk about the travel we did. Both these guys started racing go-karts that gravitated into late model cars. I think you bought a street stock car from Dale Jr.
When you say we, you paid for it, and I just, yeah,
You
I went
drove.
and picked it up.
Yeah, that was so that was a we.
Yeah.
But then we didn't even get started. We had to talk about our families and what's important in life, and talk about childhood and growing up. So we got right to the part of when we were starting to make the move into NASCAR, get on the road. We did all that, and then we went into the hunting business for 15 years, and then now we're beyond that. We didn't get into any of that.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, well, we'll just do part two of this podcast, and we'll get into some of the fun stuff. We got on some serious stuff, and it was all important, and I like that. Let you know who these guys really are and what is really important. But we have always kind of lived on the light side. Yeah. I like to laugh, and I like to cut up, and these boys do the same, and so we didn't get to talk about that any. So here we are with part two. And Hank Jr., I'm going to open up with you about life on the road when we started traveling and we were going to different races and all the fun stuff, but also all the pressure.
Yeah. I will say we do like to live life on the light side. That's fun. We're cut up until I'm beating you fishing. Then it's not funny anymore. I'm 49 years old. I've beat you one time in my life fishing. And you told me, don't bring those fishing rods. That's garbage because you don't have the right line. You don't have the right setup. You use my fishing rods. Oh, no, Dad, let me try. And I wore you out. And you were so mad. You wouldn't let me go home. So you made me stay another day. You put on light line. And I think I beat you by like 10 fish the day before. So the next day you beat me by 40. And you rubbed it in my face pretty bad. But anyway, let's keep going.
So, well, that's kind of like Yogi Berra said. He never lost a baseball game. He just ran out of endings.
Yeah.
So I just extended the endings.
You
Instead
extended.
of a 9-ending game, we're going to have a 36-ending game. I'm going to win, but it might take me a little adapting to get it done, and it may take a few extra endings to get it done.
I don't know how, I met Dale Earnhardt down here at your farm on a deer hunt, and I got to hanging out with Dale Jr. We had messed around with some go-kart stuff with Danny McCaw, a guy who owned a marina, and a friend of ours, and we were not very overly successful. Catfish was way more successful than the rest of us. I was terrible. And then started hanging out with Dale Jr. He kind of got me into racing. And growing up, I thought, I'm going to be a professional fisherman. That's what I thought I would do. I loved it. I loved the outdoors. I did like hunting more than I did like fishing, but at the same time, I loved being outside. I've never been much for enjoying a classroom setting, school. I'm not the kind of guy that's going to put on khakis and a tie and drive into town every day and go to work.
On.
That's just not my. And there are people I've got dear friends. That's what they love, and that's awesome. But that's just not who I was. And so when I got into racing, man, it just seemed like it came so natural for me. It was something that clicked, and I really enjoyed it. And so as you kind of make that progression through the ranks, it's as I have kids now, I'm trying to teach them and train them to navigate life. You could stay at one little short track and become that short track hero, but that's as big as your fish tank's going to be. And so by going out and exploring and going to different racetracks and working hard to race against people who are a lot better than you, it only honed and developed your skills, made you better. And I can remember when that first started, you said, you were all about it. You were all for it. But I wanted to, I had ideas. Every young kid has ideas that they think are really good, and they're probably not. But I wanted to get a hauler and a team and all this stuff. You're like, I'm behind all of that, but I don't think you need a crew chief. You and Billy worked together, and you brought in a guy who was a veteran. He was a school teacher, Freddie Query, a short track champion, and he kind of mentored me and taught me how to think about race cars. And, I'm so grateful and thankful for that, because here's what it did. It taught me how to overcome hard things and how to work for something. I didn't have a crew chief who said, you do this, you do that, and you just drive the car. I had to learn how to do things I didn't know how to do. I had to learn how to weld. I had to learn how to set up a car. I had to learn how to do, now never got really good at welding, but I can farm weld. I can make it look rough, but it'll stick, but that's about it. But I had to learn a lot of things that people never get to experience that translate into my everyday life now, how to overcome obstacles. And so that was the start of that traveling. In my early 20s, we started traveling, racing in the All-Pro Series. I was probably 19, maybe 20 years old when I started that. And then, we tried to make a few bush races early in my career, and it was a very pivotal. That's a very pivotal time. Most of my everyday life right now, all the people who are my direct reports that work underneath me are college age kids.
Yeah,
and I can identify with the struggle that they have, and trying to figure out life, and that's where we were. We were burning up the road and trying to get good at racing.
Well, I had all these plans, and I had it all laid out. And my plan was that we were going to get Hank Parker Jr. fully sponsored, get him winning races, and get all this going. And then it was going to be Billy's turn. Mm-hmm. So we didn't get those sponsors that we thought we were going to get. So I spent all my money over here trying to build up with Hank Jr. So when you came along, where Hank Jr. says he can weld, but not so good, you're an awesome welder.
Yeah.
You learn, and you had to pick up, and this is a story I got to tell. And the Smothers Brothers, if anybody goes back that far, there was once an album cover. Tom and Dick were the two Smothers Brothers. And I think Dick had the cowboy suit with a sheriff's star, and had a six-shooter, a cap buster, and had on cowboy boots, and he had a real pony. And Tom was over there with a broom and a corn cob for a gun, and it said, "Mom loves you best."
Yeah.
And so Hank Jr., we've got a stable of 5 race cars. And at that time, we had a big 18-wheeler that we could carry 2 race cars, and we were working on the 6th and the 7th car. We had chassis set up in the race shop. And so Billy calls me one day and says, "Hey, Dad, I need to have a meeting with you." I said, "Okay, can we meet by phone?" No, I need you to come to the race shop." I said, "Okay, I'll be there in a few minutes." And he said, "Okay, I'll be waiting on you." So I go in my office and I sat down. I said, "Okay, Billy, what we need to meet about?" He said, "Dad, how about walk out here?" And we had a balcony. You remember where all the parts went upstairs? He said, "How about walk up here and walk up on the balcony where you could overlook all the race cars and the chassis and everything?" And we walk up there, and he said, "Just kind of take a look around." And I looked, and he said, "Yeah, that's a speedway car, isn't it, Dad?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Now, that's a short track car?" "Yep." "And what's that, a 1.5 mile car you got there?" "And you got 2 new chassis?" Now, all these cars, they're Hank Jr.'s. "Is that right?" I said, "Wait, yeah." He said, Okay. All right, how about walk out here and look?" And we've got a big Mack 18-wheeler and a competition trailer, carries 2 race cars. He said, "Now, what is that, Dad?" I said, "Well, that's the race hauler." He said, "And that's for Hank Jr." He said, "Well, what have I got?"
Yeah.
And I said, "Oh Lord, here we go." So he said, I got a little budget here." So he said, "Come on back to the office." And so he lays out. He wants a Townsend car. He wants this. He wants a Hampke car. Yeah, Hampke car. He wants all this stuff. And he said, this is what I need to make all this happen." and you got it.
We worked our way into
Yeah,
it.
and
did.
so I said, okay, I don't know how I'm going to do it, but okay, it's fair. So, but Mom, Dad loved Hank Jr. best.
Well, I was just happy to be in the band. Man, I got to work on Hank's team and work with those guys and be a part of the team, and that was good for me. I needed that. I needed to learn and be educated, and I got all that. And Hank Jr. was, a good big brother, and he was kind of my coach along those times, and it was good. I mean, it was a good fit. It matched up just perfect, I think. And you're talking about Freddie coming in and being the coach. Man, what a difference that made.
Yeah.
Freddie Query, he got us mentally prepared. We were doing things, but mentally we weren't there. And this guy, he's amazing. He's a short track hero, and he took us to another level.
Yeah.
We went. I have to tell this story. We went to Louisville, Kentucky, and Les Westerfield. Was that?
The director of the All Pro Series.
Yeah, he was the director, and that was the good days. That was NASCAR's
that's
touring
Fun
division, the All Pro Series.
Yeah, and he's just an awesome dude too.
Yeah, he was a good guy, and I liked him. And he said, "Guys, I want everybody to come with me, and I want us to walk this racetrack. This is a racetrack like no other racetrack you've ever raced on. When you come off of turn 3 to come down to go into turn 4 to the start-finish line is downhill. It's very deceiving. There's been 4 fatalities on this track. There's been 2 all-pro drivers killed at this racetrack. This is not something to play with. So you rookies, I want you to go in front, and I want you to walk this." So I'm walking with Hank Jr., and we're walking this racetrack. And literally, you walk a pretty steep grade downhill to get to turn 4.
Yeah.
And I can see,
Yeah.
as a driver,
Drop
what
off.
little bit, I can see this is trouble. I mean, this is big trouble.
Yeah.
So we walk this track, and then Les Westerfield says, "All right, let's have a meeting." And he said, "Now listen to me, you rookies. This is not a place to come with having an idea in your mind that you're going to make a top 10 finish, or you can even remotely dream about winning this race. This is a racetrack that you need to respect, and you come up here and pay your dues, and you try to finish the race with all your fenders on your car. That's your objective, rookies. Don't get any wild ideas. We've had too many fatalities at this track." So he walks off. Hank Jr. and I go back and walk the track the second time, and I said, "Hank, did you hear him?" He said, "Oh, yeah, Dad, I heard him." I said, "So listen to me. We want to finish the race, and if we can finish on the lead lap, that'll be good. What's your objective?" He said, "Oh, Dad, I came to win." I said, No. He said, "Oh, no, Dad. I've never not come to win. I've come to win this race." Well, at that time, you'd never won an all-pro race, had you?
Mm-mm.
That was your rookie year,
Rookie year.
on the toughest racetrack that we'd ever been to. The first racetrack I'd ever been that you have a downhill slope. And to make a long story short, Cope, what was the Cope?
Mike Cope.
Mike Cope.
Yeah.
Mike Cope was the series champion.
Yeah.
And he had won, I don't know how many races, 40 or 50, and he was the series champion. And Hank Jr. was running second behind Mike Cope.
Well,
Not a bad pit stop. Ran over the hose or something.
that's right. Okay.
Yeah.
That's was that my fault?
No. He was running second to Derek Cope. I mean to
Mike Cope.
Cope.
Yeah.
And Cope was holding him up.
Yeah.
And
I couldn't
so-
figure out how to pass him.
Yeah, and I was spotting. And so Hank would bump him a time or two, and NASCAR would come on the radio, and I was spotting.
Yeah.
And he said, if he bumps him one more time, I'm going to black flag him. If he bumps him one more time. So I'm talking to Hank Jr. He said, "Dad, I got to move him. He will not yield, and I'm way faster." And so he didn't bump him, but he passed him and took the lead of the race.
Yep.
And, man, this was so exciting. So he's leading the race. The final, and this is on a track where he'd already warned the rookies not to even be competitive. So he came in for his pit stop, the final pit stop of the race, and ran over the air hose.
Yeah.
Put him at the back of the longest line.
Yeah.
And so there he is now, so far back with like 30 laps to go.
Yeah. It was short.
So I'm looking and I'm watching, and the race takes off, They go back green, and I'm hitting the stopwatch, and he is smoking. I mean, he's like 0.6 of a second, which is unbelievable on a half-mile track, faster than Cope, who's leading the race. So I told him, I said, Hank, and I'm calculating the laps, and I'm looking, and I'm hitting that stopwatch, and I said, if you don't mess around with any of this traffic, you can win this race. You can win this race. And so he comes all the way back up through the field. With 2 laps to go, he catches Cope. Yep. And he gets right on his butt. And I said, you cannot bump him, buddy. You cannot bump him. You cannot move him. And so here we go, and he turns into 3, and all I see is a cloud of dust.
Yeah.
You know, Earnhardt made the pass at Charlotte called the pass in the grass, famous. They made Sam Bass had big paintings, pass in the grass. Here Hank Jr. goes pass in the grass, 2 tires off the racetrack. He did not bump him, took the lead on the white flag, and I'm saying, go, 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 buddy, you got it, 1 more lap. He said, Dad, that was the checkered flag. I thought we had 1 more lap
I'm about wrecked after the race. I was like, whoa, because I let off the gas and saw the checkered flag. You're like, go, don't stop.
Go, you got 1 more lap to go. He said, no, Dad, that was the checkered flag. So he literally passed him in the grass on the last lap of the race and won.
Most important lap.
Yep.
That was
epic.
Oh, man. And the man, I can't think of his name that owned the Speedway.
I can't think of his name either.
Super nice guy. He said, I'm going to tell you, we've had 1,500 races here. It was the most exciting race. I said, it was definitely the most exciting race for me.
It was awesome, man. That was the start of a big deal.
Yeah.
From that, we took that momentum. Mm-hmm. Man, we just got into a whole nother level of racing at that point.
Yeah.
Well, then here you come, and you build your own chassis.
To be Robbie Hamke, man, he's such a good friend, good guy, and y'all raced Hamke's cars, and then I got hooked up with Robbie, and he's the brains behind it.
Well, you made these cars, you beat them out, you're working in a shop, you're working by yourself, you're loading up, you go and you win the race.
Yeah.
I mean, how many races? Tell me where the fox or the possum ran across the racetrack and you're leading the race.
Yeah. That was in Jeffco.
Peach State Speedway, Jeffco, yeah.
You're leading the race and a dog or a fox or something that's running across the track.
I had been at that racetrack with Hank. Hank was the driver, and I was working on the crew. And I just remember, man, saving your tires. Mm-hmm. You and Freddie going back and forth on the radio, saving your tires and doing this and how to enter the corners and save your car. And that's all I could think about during that race. And I was running like 4th or 5th for a long time. And this big short track guy, Greg Mardo, he's awesome. Yep. Good guy, good driver. Yep. He was just running off with the race. And I was like, dude, I can beat this guy. I'm just going to let him wear his stuff out. So I got up to 2nd and just pushed him and just push. And a fox ran out on the racetrack, or a coyote. Yeah. And a guy, it bounced off a guy in front of me, and then I just smoked it. And I thought, man, I just tore my right front out of the car. But it obviously didn't tear it up. Man, I was just really concentrating on saving my tires, and it was like 15 to go. I pulled down, passed him on the bottom, coming out of 4, and I just ran off with it.
You may be the only driver in the history of NASCAR that hit a fox while running 2nd and took the lead and won the race.
I don't know. If you look back in our jobs, I bet a lot of things happened. Right?
I don't know. Hit a coyote and won the race.
That was good, man. That was a big deal. Yeah.
He started winning races, dominated at Hickory Motor Speedway for a while, and
short while. I don't know if I dominated. I won a handful of races, a fair amount.
You were the guy to beat at Tri-County and at Hickory for
he was.
a couple
He's too
years.
modest. He never wanted to take credit for as good as he was. And Kenny Wallace, Rusty Wallace's brother, Rusty started inquiring. Stephen was starting to race, Rusty's son. So Rusty had been to a few races incognito, and he'd been watching this guy named Catfish. And he said, man, that guy's a driver. That Catfish is a driver, man. That kid has got it. And so he asked Kenny, he said, do you know a Catfish Parker? And Kenny said, yeah. I said, that's Hank Parker Jr., the bass fisherman's son, Hank Parker. He said, no. This guy's name's Catfish. He said, I know his name's Billy Parker. He goes by Catfish.
It's Hank Jr.'s little brother. That's what I went by in the racing community for a long time. That's Hank Jr.'s little brother.
Yeah. And then Rusty said, no. He said, yeah, it's Hank Jr.'s little brother.
Yep.
So tell us how you got hooked up with Rusty.
Well, they wanted to get Steven in a race car, and they needed someone who could just kind of be a mentor, be there for him, and just be with him. Steven wasn't old enough to drive. I mean, they needed somebody to drive the truck and the trailers and help take care of the car, just kind of oversee things. And he asked, that's kind of, I think, what spurred it, really. Yeah. And so Steven went late model racing, and I got to say, I've seen a lot of drivers, man, but that kid could drive. I mean, he could, if you could take, and I'll just use miles per hour because not everybody goes by seconds, but if the car could go 150 miles an hour, Stephen Wallace could make it go 160. Yeah. I mean, that's just who
for
he
a couple of laps. He would wreck it, but he could make it go fast.
That's
he was
right.
young.
He was young, and he just had to mature in his mind, not to run over people and do stuff like that. But, I mean, that kid could drive and get speed out of a car. And he went short track racing at Hickory, one of the toughest short tracks there is. Yep. And he about, I had to fight like crazy to keep him behind me. I mean, he about outran me, and it's first or second time out on this racetrack. Yeah. I mean, he was awesome. But that's kind of how it spurred, really wanting to get Steven groomed so he could, go through the rankings and drive late models and get up at that time, I guess it was the Busch Series, wasn't it?
That's right.
Or had they changed it at that?
No, it was still the Busch Series.
Yeah. So that's kind of how that spurred.
Well, now, how many races, do you know how many races you won?
I don't know. It's funny. I was cleaning up my shop the other day, and I called Junior. I was like, what did I do with all these trophies? Yeah. And I think you said, I would count them, and then I'd probably, I don't know, put them in a box somewhere and save them for your kids. But I don't know. I mean, if we didn't race at that point, I wasn't racing every weekend because we had a budget. And so I was picking the bigger races to go run. So we didn't run a full schedule, but I think I won like 11 races that one year. I think we run like 13 races, and I won 11.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah. Do you know how many races you won?
I do not. I have no clue. I don't know.
I remember Homestead. Homestead, Florida was a big deal for the late model and the NASCAR All Pro Series because it was televised on CBS television. Right. And so you would have, like, I remember one year,
Buddy Baker,
Jimmy Spencer, and Joe Gibbs.
That's right.
Did the race commentary one year. But we were there, and I was spotting, and you were running at Homestead, and your car was didn't have the better gear.
Yeah, transmission. I'd used our road racing transmission.
Yeah, for takeoff. Yeah. But you were spanking them. Yeah. And so NASCAR, they like to keep it close. They don't like when one car runs off and leaves another.
Stink up the show is what they call it.
Yeah. So I've got stinking up the show. That's exactly what they said. I've got the headset on, and I'm listening. I'm talking to Hank Jr. driving the car, and I'm listening to NASCAR if they chime in. And so they come on the radio, and you were running an 86 car. Mm-hmm. And they came on the radio, and he said, all right, 86 stinking up the show, tell him to slow it down. So I get on the radio, and I say, all right, Hank, you're going to have to slow it down. NASCAR's complaining you're running off and leaving everybody. And so I kept telling him, I said, back off.
I kept backing off, and it got faster.
I mean, he was just running off and leaving them. And NASCAR said, all right, I told you, and here come the caution.
Yep. Yeah. Competition yellow is what we call it.
Competition yellow. 3 laps to go. You fell back to 5th or 6th and ended up just about a photo finish for 2nd. You came back, but your car didn't have the right gear for takeoff.
Right.
So then we go back. So that was just the most disappointing one single moment I had in NASCAR. We dominated that race. It was on CBS television. And you dominated, and they stole that race from you. NASCAR stole that race from you, and it just made me so mad. So then we go back, and you're driving Homestead.
No.
Hank Jr.'s driving?
Hank Jr.'s driving.
I won it next year.
Yep. And so you go back and dominate the race.
Yep. Well, what happened was I won the Winchester 400, which is a big race.
Huge race.
Then the next race was the All-American 400, remember?
Should have won it.
And I was leading with 10 laps to go, and a lap car wrecked me.
Yeah.
and you said, I don't know what you need to do with this race car, but we need to take this to Homestead. And I said, when we got home, I just tore it all apart, and Catfish did the body on it. And you're like, you guys are idiots. What are you doing?
Yeah.
And we went down there, and
Freddie Query came over and said, I got a few ideas. Let's start working on it.
It
And
was-
we took the body off
hold
that
on.
car.
Here's a car
That's
that
winning.
you dominated the race with. NASCAR threw the caution and stole the race, but the car is a dominant car.
Yes.
And you sat on the pole
yes,
that particular year that
Right.
you led that race. You sat on the pole.
Yep.
And so now I go in the race shop at 10:30 at night,
and we've got it torn to pieces
4 days before the race, and you've got the whole body laying in the floor.
because we had an idea.
Freddie had an idea.
And I went nuts.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
said, are you guys crazy? You took the best car we've ever had, and you have torn this. Oh, I was so upset. So when we go back to Homestead,
I was really fast in practice.
you qualified like
7th or 8th.
4th or 5th or somewhere.
It got windy, so I got a late draw, and the wind starts in the afternoon. I qualified, and you were like, "What are you? I can't believe you did all this." And I said, "Just wait, just wait, just trust me."
Yeah.
Like-
I was so mad. I said, you sat on the pole here last year by 0.3 of a second.
But we didn't, we
And
did.
now you tore the body off the car, and you're back here 5th, 6th, whatever it was you qualified, and you're 3 or 4 tenths off of the fastest car.
Yeah.
Man, you're just crazy. Y'all did this. I was so upset. And all you'd say, just wait, Dad. Just wait, Dad. It's going to be all right.
When you put that car in traffic, it's going to come alive.
Yeah.
And that's what it did. Man, it was no
We won that one.
It was no competition.
Oh, it was cool, and that's when I got my first opportunity to drive a Busch car too. I drove the Mark III 78 car the next day in the Busch race.
And that was a live on CBS television race for the second time. You finished second the first year, and then they dominated and won. The competition caution wouldn't hurt you because you had the right gear to take off
Right,
that year.
right.
It didn't matter.
We got a new transmission.
we
it
got
didn't-
everything just right. But I guess, to kind of parlay that qualifying effort into the race, we built that car for the race traffic. Remember the year before
Yeah.
when the car wasn't handling in dirty air and it was really all over the place and you couldn't steer it and you were pushing up the racetrack and we were like, who cares about qualifying?
We made it
we
better.
care about the race. And that car was totally revamped and fabricated for race traffic.
Yeah, it was good.
It was so cool.
I learned
And
a lot.
to listen to you guys and to talk about where we were, that was everybody's dream. Everybody's dream at that time was you'd be running in the Cup Series, and we'd be like Dale Earnhardt, and that's going to be our life. And then, man, it all changed so quickly.
Yeah, it did. It changes fast. And, I think for me, I think Billy can tell his story, but for me, what happened is, I had a great partner in GNC, and you learn a lot. I can look back, and there's a lot of things that I would do different. I'm so thankful for my time. I'm so thankful for the people. But one of the things that I did is GNC was a great partner, and they wanted to go Cup racing. We were going to partner with Greg Pollux. They were going to go there. We were going to run the 10 car and then go to the Cup Series. I was driving for Ray Evernham at the time, and I got to make a Cup start with him, but doing a lot of testing, driving for Dodge. Just had a lot of great partnerships, and GNC was just a vital part of what we were doing. I had gone to drive for another team at this point, but they had really embraced our family, and they were good people. And I was back at Homestead Speedway. One of my last Busch races was at Homestead Speedway, and I finished second. It was a kind of a photo finish, and GNC dropped me because the government had banned ephedra. And that earlier in that year, Chip Ganassi had come to me about driving a singular one car, and I turned him down because he had made the stipulation: you have to give up the GNC car. You cannot drive for GNC and my car. And if I could go back and do anything over, what I would do is I would be a better salesman. Hey, let me put my brother in that car, the races that I have to miss or whatever. But at the moment, he's a hard businessman. It didn't work. And so I turned that ride down, and GNC dropped me, and it left me high and dry. Dale Jr. gave me some opportunity in the Chance 2 car. I had some awesome runs. I drove a race for Bruco, finished second in that race at Darlington, but it just didn't pan out, and it didn't work out, and it was a hard thing to overcome, but it was a milestone in my life that I'm actually thankful for.
That door shut. You thought you were going to get the Pennzoil and drive the one car for for Earnhardt Racing. Pennzoil pulled out and went over to the 77 car with Penske. That door shut. Billy gets in a wreck. That door shuts. So all of our dreams were just, every time you turned around, the door was shutting. And I told Billy in an earlier podcast I did with him that I believe God shut those doors.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that is not where he wanted you guys to go.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at where you are today, and you can see the big picture. You know, there's an illustration, and we've probably heard this before, about a tapestry. And if you can look at the front of the tapestry, it's beautiful. But if you look behind the scenes and you see all the threads and where it's a mess, it's a mess. And God sees the front of that tapestry.
Mm-hmm.
And all we're looking at is all these threads, and we're trying to make things happen our way. And God's got this whole thing orchestrated. He knew before you did that you were going to adopt Evie and Bo.
Yeah.
He knew before any of your children were born what was going to happen in your life. And we take so much responsibility for directing our lives. We really don't direct our lives.
Right.
When you're saved, you're bought with a price. You're no longer your own. You belong to him. And he cares for you more than you care for yourself. And I believe, I look at our lives, I look at my life, I look at you guys, I look at where we are today, I look at all these dreams that we had about racing and where our future was and how we were crushed when it all fell apart. And I look at where we are.
Yeah.
And it's the front of that tapestry. It is where God wanted us to be. We're at a fantastic place in our life.
Yeah.
And our families are wonderful and healthy. And you have spent so much time and invested so much time in your kids.
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't have done that.
No.
You could not have done that.
Not in the same way, for sure.
No. And when you decided, I'm going to get out of outdoor television, I'm going to get off of this road, I'm coming home, I'm going to raise Evie, then Bo came along. Yeah. Look at where you are. Had you been the big race car driver that we all dreamed about, you couldn't do that.
I told Hank, it's been a couple of years, but talking with Hank Jr., and we were talking about racing. He said, I would have liked to have been a grand champion. I would have liked to have had a championship. I said, dude, you're a champion father.
Yeah.
And that will carry you for the rest of your life. Those trophies get dust on them.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's true. I mean, not to brag on him too much because he's my brother, but he's an awesome dad. And you look at his kids and just the effect he's made and the time he's put in, it's you don't have to speak it. You can see it. But speaking of our life, all right, I want to jump ship here, and I'm sorry if I'm interjecting on you.
Go for it.
Let's hear this. You tell the story.
Oh, no.
Talking about our lives because I about ended it. Coming down, is it South Mountain, Brown Mountain?
Oh, my goodness.
Okay, I'm going to set the stage, and then Hank's going to Junior's going to take over. So we're driving all over the world racing, and Junior gets a toter, what we call a toter home. It's a big Caterpillar engine, big 10-speed.
Jake brake.
It's literally a semi, but it's got a living quarter on it, so you kind of.
You don't
And
have
you
to have a
pull a race
CDL.
car.
Pulling
So
race
you got a living
cars.
car.
So
Okay, you pull your
we
race
got a
car.
50-foot trailer, double stack, 2 race cars, pit equipment, gasoline, argon bottles, nitrogen bottles, you name it. We're low. Everything we own is in that trailer, and we're coming home from out west, up north somewhere, and I'm driving,
I was asleep in the
Right.
sleeper.
You're sleeping the sleeper. Wayne's in there. Ronnie. We got our crew in there. Everybody's in there. And I'm coming, and we get up to the top of the mountain, and we start to descend or whatever. You go down the hill, and I wasn't thinking. And you take it from there.
So I-40 was shut down. We were coming down Black Mountain. We were taking some back roads. And when I woke up, we were coming down, and everybody was screaming.
Praying and screaming.
Screaming bloody murder. And we're coming down this hill, and we're absolutely flying. And
Out of control.
yeah. So I jump up out of the sleeper, and I run. I hop down. He's like, what's going on? He goes, I'm out of brakes. And because it's an air brake system, we run the air out.
Ran the air out of the brakes.
So I was like, get out of the seat.
And I'm not, and I'm trying to downshift. All right, don't let that out.
Yeah, so we're flying.
And I get
down this
stuck
hill.
in neutral,
You're
and so now
stuck.
we pick up more speed, and there's no air in the compressor. We have no brakes, and we're in neutral. We don't have a downshift gear to slow us down.
So he jumps out of the seat. I jump in the seat while we're rolling. Probably not advised to do, but that's what we did. And I just held the gas wide open.
Wide open.
I got it to gear down.
You took
And then I just
both
waited
your-
till we got all the way down to about the cars, and I just jammed on the brakes, and we come sliding in
I mean,
sideways on the curb all the way down by all these cars, and we stopped about 4 inches from the red light.
Yep, we are near death coming down Black Mountain.
Yeah.
And I don't know how fast, but all the lights, they got these speed warning lights above you for trucks, and they're going off before I get even close to them. And I'm stuck in neutral. We're out of air in the compressor, and Junior's like, he says we changed. He basically like ripped me out of the seat, which was good. And he put one foot on the gas pedal as hard as it would go, and the other one on his hand up against the gear shifter. And he was pushing that gear shifter, and it sounded like every piece of metal in that engine was going to kaboom, just blow up. And it finally went kapow. And when it did, it went in gear.
Yeah.
And we just immediately went, started slowing down. But the
How'd it
guys,
go? Let me hear that again. That's pretty good.
so the rest of the guys that's in the back, man, they're on their hands and knees praying. And once we get safe, they're like, yeah, you're never, ever, ever driving again, Catfish. You're done.
We're going to change your name to Jake Brake. Let
Oh,
me hear that
man.
Jake Brake one more time. Man, that is a great Jake Brake now, I'm telling you.
You know the scariest part of that story?
What?
I now have a Class A license.
Yeah. That's even scary. I won't get around you on the highway.
Hey, do you know I've never heard this story? It was the first time I've heard it.
I know.
Yeah,
Well, we
you
just
There was a
guys
reason
would
for
have
that.
been grounded.
Yeah.
That would have been the end.
we knew that you were in charge, and that's a piece of leverage Dad had over us. Especially me, pretty wild kid. You mess up, buddy, you're done. There's no racing. I'll pull that out of you, and you'll sit at home. So we never got on the razor's edge. We were a little wild, but we.
You got on the edge once. I have to tell this story. We went to Concord Motor Speedway, and he's airing up his tires. He's getting ready to race. And I look, and he's got an imprint of a little round can in his back pocket. And the rule was,
That's right.
I'll invest all the money that I have. I'll do anything for you, but there'll be no alcohol. There'll be no drugs. There'll be no smoking. There'll be no dipping. There'll be no chewing.
Let me put it in a way that Dad would say it.
Don't.
Son, my kids don't smoke, dip, or chew, or date girls that do.
That's it. You got it.
But that was embarrassing to hear, but we heard it a lot.
Oh, yeah, that's right. My kids don't dip, smoke, or chew, or date girls who do.
That's right.
All right, you remember that.
It's been in my brain since I'm 15.
So I go, and here's this imprint of this little round can. And so I put my arm around him. I said, Billy, see a little can in your pocket. You been dipping some snuff? He said, well, Dad, I've been doing a little experiment. And I said, well, let me just tell you.
I said experiment, long cut.
That's my race car. You're putting air in the tires. And my drivers don't dip.
Smoke or chew.
Smoke or chew or date girls who do. Well, he got mad. And out he left. He left his race car sitting there and went through the tunnel, out of the track, mad, because I've just clipped his wings. So I'm getting ready to race. That's when I have my car, and you're getting ready to race. So we're getting our cars ready, and Billy's sitting there, and he's racing the late model, and we're racing the
Super late models.
super late
I'm
model.
racing street stock. Yeah.
Okay.
Is that what you were at
Yeah.
that time? Okay.
Street
So
stock.
he
I was a
left-
street stalker.
Okay. I was racing super late model, and Hank was too. So Billy left mad, and so I'm getting ready to race, and I'm in a hurry. I'm putting my suit on, getting my helmet, and getting everything ready. And here he comes back. And he don't say a word to me. He starts airing his tires. And I said, I thought I made it perfectly clear. He said, I don't dip, I don't chew, and I ain't going to date no girls who do. And that was the end of the experiment
Yeah.
with the little bitty can.
Yeah, well, man, that's his leverage, you know. That's a powerful thing. you
Yeah,
know.
and so I love that. That was the coolest part about having teenage sons and they all wanted to race. Man, I held the keys to all them race cars.
He did. He really did. And it was a good thing, especially for me, because I could have went off like a Roman candle.
Yeah, we didn't let that happen. We got rules, brother, rules. So, all right, we got through with the tour, and you got down the mountain safely.
Yeah, got down the mountain safely, barely, and that was quite the show I put on the mountain coming down.
We're almost out of time. We have not even got into the hunting stories, and we're out of time again. So let's throw in at least one good hunting story. As we gravitated, NASCAR came to a close. We closed that book. We moved on. We started a television show called Hank Parker 3D, also a television show called Hank Parker's Flesh and Blood, and also a television show, a mini series that we ran on ESPN, a vignette called Hunt Like a Parker. Yep. So we had all that going. We're traveling all over the country hunting, and we're all hanging out together, and we're doing 99% of our hunting with a bow and arrow. And so we're just having a great time. And that came to an end after 15 years, and now you are where you are. But let's go back to just one hunting story.
All right. Well, it's we've always loved to hunt, and you've got pivotal moments in your life as a kid that you remember. That duck we talked about in the first episode. That was a big part of my life. And then killing my first deer here on our family farm, it was a big deal. But we were hunting up in Kentucky one time. We were leasing this property, and we had this old house that was not safe for anybody to walk on the floors, and we were sleeping in there. We were staying.
I got stung by a bee in the middle of the night.
Yeah, it was rough.
I mean, the bees come out at night. That's a Jap hornet right there. I don't know, but yeah,
it was a funny place. But anyway, we got up there and we're doing some hunting, and you shot a deer, and I didn't know it. We were split up on this big ridge. I was hunting one end, you were hunting the other end. And I saw you walking down there in the woods with your head down. Like, what is he doing? And you look so sad. Now you walk up there and he's like, I shot a deer I shouldn't have shot. I was like, well, okay, it's going to be okay. Because I'm more like, if I shoot a deer, even if it was too small and nobody wanted me to shoot, I'm still pretty happy,
Yeah.
But you were pretty bummed out. And so we go up there, and this deer's laying there, and it looked like a horse.
Ginormous.
Like, oh, my goodness. And, we're in the mountains of Kentucky, and it's just this huge deer. I'm like, what's wrong with you? Let me hunt where you're going to hunt, because I'll shoot that deer every single day. You shot this giant deer, and I kept going on about it. You kind of started feeling better. And then we're hanging out there at we get him back to camp. We had to go get a mule, like a 4-legged mule, not ones that run on gasoline, to drag this thing out of the mountains. And the farm owner had his sheds from the year before, and everybody was so excited you shot this deer, and you're over there like, oh shit, I shot this deer. And I'm like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah, I think the more we talked about it, and the happier he got.
Yeah, it all worked out, man. I love that deer now. It's funny, I don't know why I was disappointed in that deer, but I really was at the time. But I became happy with it after he got me pumped up. That was part of the.
That was fun.
Yeah.
Real quick.
Real quick.
Tell them about the mule that you went and recovered the deer with. Go and tell them your little story about that.
Oh man, I've never really been around horses. My boys love horses. I never really spent any time around them. They had a mule up there, and this thing was so ornery and so mean, and he lived in a pasture by himself, which that kind of conducive for that. So I found a saddle in this old barn. I thought I was going to ride him. Well, he went crazy, so I thought this will be fun. Me and my buddy, Lyndon Amick, got this mule out there, and we tied him up on both sides of his halter and tied him down so he couldn't move.
Right.
And I went and got Catfish, and I said, hey, this is the most gentle mule you've ever been around in your life. You slide up on him because he likes it when you ride him bareback. Yep. Well, I'd already tried it. This thing went ape crazy, and I couldn't get on him.
Right.
But I had some help getting off, so Lennon was holding him down. So we got this thing all held down, and we put you on him, and we let go of those ropes, and I smacked that mule as hard as I could, and he bucked. I've never seen it. Looked like the rodeo. It looked like he flew straight up in the air, down, hit the barn, about broke his back. We're dying laughing. It was so funny.
Mules stomping the ground all around me. I mean, it was wild. It was PBR, and the whole time you knew what was going to happen.
Oh, yeah.
And there I was, just ignorant to it. And
So you
times.
fell for that. I cannot believe you would fall.
I
for
know.
that.
I usually have my guard up, but he got me.
Oh,
times.
that's crazy.
That's the kind of stuff that happens on the road. That's the stuff you don't capture. And that's what's so special about hunting. All the memories, all the stories, the little side, Yeah, we've got mounts and we can look at big deer, but there's so much more to it than that. We've had so much fun over the years, videoed or non-videoed. It's just it's been good. It's like like a vacation when you're a kid, you don't want to come home. That's what life's been like in a lot of ways for us, and especially when it comes to all the hunting and fishing tales. It's just been good, and it's been bonding, and I wouldn't trade it for anything.
You tell your mule story. I got to tell my llama story. I was up there hunting with Ruby Custer, our lady guide in Unit 5 in Iowa.
Yeah.
And there was a pasture, and she said there's a really big deer that's been seen 2 or 3 times, but can't go in that pasture. There's a llama over there, and that llama is very, very protective and
aggressive.
Extremely aggressive. Can't go in that. So my cameraman, and I won't call his name, but he's a macho guy. He was a macho guy. And he said, I ain't scared of no dang llama. If he's a big deer where we need to go hunting. I said, all right, I'm in. But you're going to have to clear the way before I get in that pasture. So we go out there the next morning, and he jumps over. I said, well, let me keep the camera and stuff over here. So he's a big macho guy. He's going to whip this llama. That llama like to kill him, man. He's crawling out there, his shirt half tore off of him. His hat stuck out in the field. He got mud all over him. He said, we ain't going to mess with that llama no more. We're done. We never did hunt that pasture. He wasn't as macho when we got through as he was when we started. But the animals, it was a good time, man. We had so much fun on the road, and I missed those days. I look forward to. We made a trip last year, and we got to get you in on this, Billy.
Yeah.
I'm going up and hunting with a buddy of mine and fishing on an Indian reservation in New York. And last year we went, and golly, bummed a big
incredible.
smallmouth and
Huge smallmouth. Great turkey hunting.
great turkey hunting, and we
things
got to
I
get you
love.
to go with us. That's a big time. So we got that coming up in May. Big smallmouth and turkeys. Can you beat that?
You can't.
Let's go.
I'd love to make that trip.
We need to make that trip. It needs to be a family bond. We'll have Boone and Cade, and I think Timmy's going to come up and run camera for me. So we're just going to have a ball.
That'd be fun.
I'll get you to call Laura and ask if I can go.
That's going to be a tough one.
I got a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. She goes, you're going to do what? You're going to leave me and go fishing?
Probably not going to be a good idea. The more I think about that, Billy, you probably would not enjoy this
I
trip.
think she'll let me go. I do. I've been so good here lately.
Okay. Well, you be really good and on your best behavior, and if you get to go, we're going to have good times. And you said earlier, you need to be deliberate to plan things. We need to plan some of these hunting trips that we're missing out on. We need to get all these grandbabies and load up and let's go. Let's do it.
All right.
All right. Well, it's been a great time. This is the second half of the podcast, so we appreciate you. I hope you saw the first one. You know who these guys are. We got into some of our racing stories and a little bit of the hunting stories, but we could go for another day or two and not even scratch the surface. I mean, we got a lot of stuff that we did together, and it's all good, but I guess we're restricted to a certain amount of time, and you probably don't have time to hang around any longer, so we'll close it out. Hank Jr., tell everybody goodbye.
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity to come and reminisce on some good stories.
Man, it was fun times.
Yeah, it's been fun. Thank y'all.
All
Appreciate
right.
it.
Well, hey, God bless you. Remember, go up there and subscribe. We need you to do that, and join us next week. God bless you. I'm Hank Parker.